Alrighty, it's October 7th today. It's getting a little bit chilly. I was hoping to not use any heating source, firewood, or the propane until November 1st, but probably will. So today, before it gets much colder, I'm going to clean the chimney. It's the first time I'm doing it, so I'm not sure if I'm the professional source to be doing a how-to video, but it's pretty straightforward with some common sense. So we're going to give that a go. That's what you need for cleaning your chimney. Screwdriver, pair of gloves, that's optional. And a chimney brush. This is a brush that was left over, we found in the shed. It's left here by the previous owner, but you can get them at Home Depot or Lowe's, whatever, hardware store. Fairly inexpensive. You can add pieces to it to make it longer. Ladder, at least 3 rungs above the roof line. I got 4, and we're tied off there. Think of it. Get her done. Before you go on the roof, grab a pair of pliers too. You might need them. Even if you don't, you don't. But if you do and you didn't take them, then you got to make a second trip up and down the ladder. Interestingly enough, we don't have a shortage of chimneys on this house. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have a 5th one on the shop over there. So I got my work cut out for me, but today I'm only going to be doing 2, although as I say that doesn't make sense, but I'll only be doing 2 because I only used 2 last year, and I just want to see how this goes as my first time doing it. Who knows, maybe I'll end up doing them all. I'll be doing that one and this first one here. This one. First thing you have to do, I hope it's obvious, is to remove the cap cover there. Right, so when I went for the second time to get a pair of pliers, I also decided to bring another step ladder to help me stand on top of the chimney. So we got the cap off, obviously, and I got my brush down there. Now, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could unscrew each extension, and as you need to get longer, you can add it. One advantage to that is that you don't have a piece of metal flopping around on your roof, possibly scratching it. Really just makes a racket. I chose to keep it as one length and just feed it in, and that means you got, when that's out, that's flopping around making a noise, that's all. So basically, it's pretty straightforward. Hard to do with one hand and film at the same time. Basically, you just want to feed it down there, go back and forth, give it a good scrub. You can see a little bit of dust coming up. Back and forth as I feed it back up. And there you go. Just be thorough. Feed it back down again. Back and forth as you go down. You can hear a lot of stuff falling, that's good. Okay, I'm going to pull it out and go take a look inside. I got a flashlight too and take a look down the chimney from the top. Now again, disclaimer, I'm not a professional. This is the very first time I'm doing this. I do know that this brush probably is not the right size. It should be a little bit bigger. It's either just undersized for the job or it's wore down. Your brush should be filling the diameter of the pipe quite easily so that you get a good scrub all the way down. This is what was left here, so I'm just working with what I have. Next year when I do this, I'll definitely buy a new brush and have it proper size to the pipe here. But you know, I can still tell it is doing the job it should be. Not as efficiently, probably just more work for me. That's fine. Like I say, I can see the results from the inside. There's a big pile of creosote there to so I can clean it a little bit better, and also primarily so I can put some WD on that nut and bolt, because it's old and a little bit worn out on the head there. Focus. And I couldn't turn it the whole way, so put some WD on it to make sure I can tighten it. So there we go. That's nice and clean now, or cleaner. Put some WD on that nut and bolt, and taking up a pair of vice grips to hold the nut, and a flashlight to look down the chimney. Visual inspection. Alright, see if we can see what I see here. Trying to shine the torch down there, and it looks pretty good. Looks like this sort of jammed in there. It's got a dent, but I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, that's the inside. There was a little bit of black stuff sitting there before I started, but not a pile like that. That's the creosote. That starts the fire. Chimney fires if you don't clean them. So that's a good sign. Glad to see that. Alrighty. So I was going to get the vacuum, but I'm going to shovel as much of it as possible into the pail first. And then I'll vacuum up the residue. Look at that. That's all the stuff you need to get rid of. It's good to see all that black stuff. There you go. Ready for fire. Probably do a fire this evening, make sure it's all working as it should. I don't see any reason why I won't. A little spoonful of sugar. Intermission for you. I once completed a marathon, full marathon. Never did it before. I did not train for it. I just knew that at the slowest pace possible would be about 6.5 hours, and at that time I was used to putting in 12-hour days, so I knew it was just a normal work day for me. And also at this time I was going through a divorce and taking firefighting level 1 training to get on as a volunteer firefighter, as well as training for EMT. So I had my plate full. And I remember that day, got up early, my wife made me a nice breakfast. I was visiting my kids that day. I told my ex I'd be late. And finished the marathon. Sure enough, there's nothing but voicemail messages. Where are you? When are you picking the kids up? Picked the kids up, spent my time with them, took them home, went to firefighter training, and finished my day probably at 10 p.m. And I remember firefighting training that day, it was Sunday. I had such a bad rash on my thighs I could barely stand. And well, look at the state of this one, hey? That's just caked on there. Not sure if I can get high enough to look straight down it. Because this chimney's narrower, it doesn't have anywhere for me to perch on top of it. But yeah, it looks like this one hasn't been done for a while, has been neglected. This is why it's important to do every year. You got to get rid of this stuff, because that's the creosote. That's what starts fires. It burns hot and it's extremely flammable. Okay, got to get rid of it. So there's not going to be any soot in there because we got a 90 there. So there's a clean out here. There's my brush. Now I don't know how much of that was there before I started, but I could tell it was awfully, it's awfully dirty. I do think probably the majority of that just fell. So we'll see what that looks like when it's cleaned out. So yeah, this clean out hasn't been cleaned out for a long time. Years. There's no way that I just knocked down all that stuff. Although I think you can see the difference in color between the old stuff and the new stuff. So that is still quite a bit of stuff I knocked down. But yeah, you got to do this every year. I know it's safer that this is not in the chimney, but I can't imagine it's perfectly safe to have this sitting in the clean out because there's still hot air coming into here. So there we go. That looks like, that's what it looks like when it's clean and been vacuumed. It won't get like that again as long as I'm here. So yeah, early for a fire, but I just wanted to make sure. Just wanted to make sure the smoke still goes out. It does. And the smoke detector works. Thanks, Nest smoke detector. Highly recommend. So one thing I noticed right away, last year we had always a difficult time is getting fires started in here. And that very well could have been to the clean out being so full of soot. Such a buildup of it. There just wasn't enough air circulating in the system. So now that that's clean, I'm sure it's going to be easier to start fires here because we have more air circulation, positive flow. That's done. Chimneys are cleaned. Nothing to it, really. I mean, you take the cap off, you get your brush, stick it down there. Don't be quick about it. Be thorough. Give it a good scrub. First time I've done it, I'm not afraid to videotape it and learn from my mistakes. That's the only way to learn as far as I'm concerned. You can read all day about this stuff, and until you do it, it doesn't matter at all what you read as far as I'm concerned. I'm always amazed at how people can take a simple thing like this and write pages and pages of nonsense about it. Like I say, keep it simple. Take the cap off, get your brush, give it a good scrub, go clean up the debris you knocked down, either right into the fireplace or stove or into the clean out section if you have a 90 degree before it reaches there, like I did. Very important though, keep those chimneys clean. If you don't, I don't see how you do not have a chimney fire and burn your house down. And that is a horrible thing, I know from experience. Happy Canadian Thanksgiving. Cheers.